that some of your worst nightmares were real.
That line, right there, from one of the most powerful directors Hollywood ever produced, a man who had everything, and then started asking questions nobody was supposed to ask.
It's an 8-armed octopus, and if you take just out, that arm will grow back. You have to take the head.
He's not talking about one person. He's not talking about one island. He's talking about a system, a machine, with names attached to it that you know, names you grew up trusting.
Everyone was told, from Rupert Murdoch, from Fox, to every studio, look, if you touch this thing, you will be out, you will be done. You'll be finished.
An industry-wide threat, coordinated, top-down, not to protect a business deal, not to protect a brand, to protect people, specific people. And two men who already survived everything Hollywood threw at them are walking back in with a camera, a story, and absolutely nothing left to lose. But here's what nobody is connecting right now. This film isn't just a follow-up to Sound of Freedom. According to everything currently circulating, this is the movie that goes to the place Sound of Freedom couldn't. The island, the names, the evidence already sitting in federal files. And Hollywood isn't nervous. Hollywood is in full panic mode. Here's why. Let's start with who these two men actually are. Because before you can understand why this film terrifies the most powerful people in entertainment, you need to understand what it already cost both of them just to get here. Mel Gibson. In the 1990s, this man was untouchable. Braveheart, Lethal Weapon. The industry was at his feet. He had the money, the credibility, the access. He was exactly the kind of person Hollywood wanted front and center charming, bankable, beloved. But something happened when Gibson got deep enough inside that world. Deep enough to start seeing things he wasn't supposed to see. Connecting things he wasn't supposed to connect. And instead of staying quiet about it, he started talking.
This is a bizarre place. And it doesn't take very long. And I'm sure you've experienced this if you've stayed here for any length of time. You come in, you're fresh from the outside. You're off the boat, from the farm, still got shit on your shoes. You're in here. People are charmed by that you've still got shit on your shoes. They're charmed by the fresh approach you bring to it. And that's a real thing. But they're also stroking the shit out of you, you know, licking you all over there. And that's kind of good for you, too.
It's great.
But it doesn't take very long before you realize, or before it gets to you. It's cascading on you all the time.
That's not the language of an actor complaining about fame. That's someone describing a machine designed to absorb you, neutralize you, and make you complicit before you even realize what's happening. And then Gibson went further.
You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it.
He was confused. He was asking questions nobody would answer. Because in Hollywood, the rule has always been simple. You don't ask questions you're not supposed to ask. And if you keep asking, the machine finds a way to shut you up. For Gibson, that moment came in 2006, a traffic stop in Malibu. Sources have argued for years that the fallout from that incident was deliberately amplified and weaponized, a perfectly timed opportunity to publicly dismantle a man who knew too much about the connections between Hollywood's elite and Jeffrey Epstein's network. And it worked. Gibson was publicly destroyed. He retreated to Australia. He stepped back from the industry entirely.
You imagine all these horror stories there that you think, boy, it seems as if I'm being sacrificed over here. No, that couldn't be true. And then you realize that it is true.
He felt like he was being sacrificed. And when you look at everything that's come out since the Epstein files, the Diddy case, the Weinstein convictions, the Quiet on Set documentary, it's very hard to argue he was wrong. But Gibson didn't disappear forever. He came back, and he came back with a purpose. Now let's talk about Jim Caviezel. Because if Gibson is the veteran who learned the hard way, Caviezel is the soldier who walked directly into enemy fire and chose to stay.
Everyone was told, from Rupert Murdoch, from Fox, to every studio, look, if you touch this thing, you will be out, you will be done. You'll be finished.
Think about the scale of that threat for a moment. This wasn't a whisper in a back room. This was a coordinated, industry-wide directive. Touch this movie about rescuing children and your career is finished. Permanently. Full stop. And Caviezel touched it anyway.
I remember this one conversation I had with Mel Gibson and the whole team that came in and just said, wow, these are the stakes.
They knew exactly what they were walking into, both of them, and they walked in anyway. Not because they didn't understand the consequences, because they understood them completely and decided the story was more important than the safety. You already know the Sound of Freedom story in broad strokes, but let's lay out exactly what happened, because the details matter more than most people realize. The film was made, finished, complete, and then it sat on a shelf for 5 years. Disney acquired Fox and quietly buried it. Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon all refused to promote it. An entire coordinated apparatus of the entertainment industry worked together to make sure as few people as possible ever saw a film about rescuing children from trafficking networks.
The guys would come up, and they were, right in front of us, ask us if we wanted niñas or niños, and
little boys or little girls.
That wasn't a scripted movie moment. That happened in real life, in broad daylight, in front of a film crew, children being offered like products. And when Caviezel brought that story back to Hollywood, a story about saving kids, he wasn't celebrated. He was blacklisted. Ask yourself that question seriously. Why would an industry that puts charity ribbons on every lapel, that speechifies about justice at every award show, that positions itself as the moral conscience of the culture, why would that industry bury a film about rescuing children? That question does not have a comfortable answer.
Children represent God. They're the most innocent and like God, and that's why the devil wants them, wants to hurt them. It's always been this way since Pharaoh, and then to Herod, and to now, but more than ever.
This is the frame through which Caviezel sees all of it, and whether you share his spiritual convictions or not, the facts that sit underneath his passion are documented, verifiable, and sitting in federal archives right now. And then Sound of Freedom finally got its release. What happened next changed everything. During screenings at specific emotional moments in the film, audience members began spontaneously calling out Epstein's Island, organically, without prompting, as if the film had cracked something open in the collective awareness of the audience. Something people had already been sensing but hadn't been given permission to say out loud. That moment told Caviezel something crucial. The audience already knew. The public had already been putting pieces together. The film wasn't delivering new information. It was giving people permission to say what they'd already been feeling, out loud, in public, together. And that is precisely why the new Gibson-Caviezel project operates on a completely different level of threat to the industry. Because Sound of Freedom was set in Colombia and Haiti. It was geographically distant. It was about foreign cartels and foreign operations. The new film is reportedly about Epstein's Island itself. That's domestic. That's documented. Those are names and files that have already been released to the public. And that changes everything. Let's be precise about what's actually in the public record right now. Because this isn't rumor. This isn't speculation. This is documented evidence that is already sitting in federal files available to the public. In February 2026, Attorney General Pam Bondi submitted over 300 names to Congress. 300. And that's just the confirmed list. Investigators have made clear the actual network was far larger. Jay-Z's name appeared in Epstein's Black Book, physical contact directory recovered during searches of Epstein's properties. His name also appeared on flight manifests for the Lolita Express. Naomi Campbell appears across multiple verified flight records from the early 2000s. 1 October 2002 manifest places her alongside Ghislaine Maxwell and former President Bill Clinton. Bill Gates met with Epstein in 2011, 3 years after Epstein's initial criminal conviction in Florida. According to documents in the released files, Epstein later attempted to use information about an alleged affair to pressure Gates into maintaining their professional relationship.
Yeah, as I said, it's not one thing, it was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, no.
Even Melinda Gates confirmed it was a factor in their divorce. And then there is Oprah Winfrey. Her name appears in the Epstein files 5 separate times. 5. And she has said absolutely nothing about it. Zero public response. Complete silence.
Almost cried out Epstein Island. And I went, oh, okay. Now I understand what we're...
Caviezel didn't mention Oprah's name by accident. He said it deliberately, on camera, in front of crowds, knowing full well what he was implying, because the pattern that surrounds her name is impossible to ignore once you lay it all out in sequence. Harvey Weinstein, her close ally for decades. She introduced him to young actresses at industry events. Her presence made him seem legitimate, trustworthy, safe. John of God, a Brazilian faith healer she gave a global platform to, broadcasting him to millions of viewers. He was later convicted of serially assaulting dozens of women. Then there's Diddy. Oprah was a documented presence at his events that are now at the center of a sweeping federal investigation.
He was with Naomi Campbell, he had Oprah Winfrey there with him, who entered the room and was swinging off his arm and just seemed like a very dear friend. And these, like Oprah, Naomi, Rita, and Georgina, they all sat at his table. And for me, you know, meeting Oprah was like, oh my God, like I would have thought that I would have to be someone who's established, who everyone would have had to know about before I was privileged enough to meet someone like Oprah. So that gave me so much confidence in him at the time when he approached me.
That is the mechanism. That is exactly how the system operates. You use a beloved, trusted public figure as social camouflage. You walk into a room with that person beside you, and suddenly every young woman in that room believes you must be safe. You must be legitimate. You must be one of the good ones. That's not coincidence. That's a deliberate strategy, and it's the same strategy that ran through Epstein's entire networking celebrity names as currency, using proximity to the trusted and the famous to make victims believe they were entering a world of opportunity, not a trap. Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel are reportedly planning to show every layer of that machine on screen. Here's what makes the new Gibson-Caviezel project fundamentally different from anything that came before it. Sound of Freedom was powerful because it humanized victims. It showed you Tim Ballard's emotional journey. It showed you operations in Colombia. It was designed to wake people up to the existence of a problem that most people had been conditioned not to look at directly. The new film is reportedly designed to name the perpetrators, not broadly, not with vague gestures at powerful elites, specific people connected to documented evidence in the Epstein files, people whose names have already appeared in court depositions and flight manifests and congressional submissions, people you recognize.
It's an 8-armed octopus, and if you take just out, that arm will grow back. You have to take the head.
Sound of Freedom cut off one arm. The new movie is going for the head, and Hollywood knows it. That's why the panic is different this time. When Sound of Freedom was being made, the industry applied pressure from the top down to keep it buried. It almost worked. The film sat on a shelf for 5 years, but the landscape has completely transformed since then. The Epstein files are public. The 300 names are public. The flight manifests are public. The depositions are public. Gibson and Caviezel don't need Hollywood's permission to distribute a film anymore. The Angel Studios model proved that conclusively. Crowdfunded, independently distributed, $200 million at the box office. The old playbook doesn't work. The leverage is gone, and the people who spent decades relying on that leverage to stay protected are now watching two men walk toward them with a camera and a distribution network that reaches 200 million people without asking anyone's permission. Here's what makes all of this so infuriating when you zoom out. None of this is new information. Corey Feldman has been saying this for over 2 decades. He sat in front of cameras and told the world exactly what was happening to child actors inside the industry.
That the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be, that's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh yeah, not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh yeah, I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded, literally. Didn't even know it.
He described the men around him as vultures. He said they were everywhere around him and his best friend Corey Haim when they were children working in this industry. And the abuse those children suffered, Feldman says directly, contributed to Haim's death.
One person to blame in the death of Corey Haim, and that person happens to be a Hollywood mogul, and that person needs to be exposed, but unfortunately I can't be the one to do it.
He can't name names, because naming names in Hollywood means lawsuits. It means career destruction. It means the full weight of billion-dollar legal teams descending on you personally. That is the protection system. Mutual assured destruction. Everyone has dirt on everyone. Nobody talks because talking means everyone falls. It was perfect. It was airtight until it wasn't. Cat Williams understood the same dynamic. He described it with brutal precision.
Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is.
You submit, and in return the machine rewards you with everything you ever wanted. Fame, money, access, roles, awards. But the moment you step out of line, the moment you start connecting dots that powerful people don't want connected, the machine destroys you. Mel Gibson learned that firsthand. Jim Caviezel felt it when every major studio on earth was warned to stay away from his film. And now, with this new project, both men are walking back into that fire with their eyes fully open. Here's the timeline. Pay close attention because the pattern is impossible to miss once you see it. Mel Gibson issued warnings in the 1990s about Hollywood's dark underbelly. Nobody listened. Corey Feldman went public in the 2000s about systemic child inside the industry. Nobody acted. Cat Williams predicted in early 2024 that the truth was about to come flooding out. People called him unstable, a conspiracy theorist, and then the Epstein files dropped. The Diddy case exploded. The Quiet on Set documentary rocked Nickelodeon to its foundation. 300 names were submitted to Congress. And now, in 2025 and into 2026, Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel have announced a film specifically about what happened on Epstein's Island, built from evidence already in federal files, drawing from names already submitted to Congress, connecting a network that the public has already been handed the pieces to. Every single piece of this has been building toward this moment. Dressed up in private islands, in modeling agencies, in charity foundations, in Hollywood studios, in philanthropic organizations, in faith healing programs broadcast on daytime television. Dressed up to look legitimate, dressed up to look charitable, dressed up to look like the work of good people with good intentions. And the film Gibson and Caviezel are making is going to strip all all of that away.
I know that the saints in heaven wish to be on this earth right now because there are far more people on this earth than there's ever been. And there are far more souls to save right now than there ever has ever been.
That is the language of a man who believes he is standing at a turning point in history. And whether you share his spiritual framework or not, the facts underneath his urgency are real. The files are real. The names are real. The pattern of silence, complicity, and institutional protection is documented and verifiable.
We have a darkness around us right now. We can lose our republic. Are we going to let our children go?
That question has been answered with silence, with redactions, with NDAs, with legal threats, and with career destruction for decades. And those people are now watching two men walk toward them with a camera, a story built on federal evidence, and a distribution model that doesn't need anyone's permission to reach 200 million people. Corey Feldman spent 20 years being dismissed as unstable for describing the predators who surrounded him as a child. Cat Williams spent years being written off as a conspiracy theorist. Every single thing they described is now documented in court records, in congressional submissions, in depositions, in flight manifests. The new Gibson Caviezel film isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a timeline, built from evidence already sitting in federal files. Evidence that was always there for anyone willing to look. Hollywood's most powerful people spent decades constructing a system of mutual protection. Everyone had leverage over everyone. Nobody talked because talking meant everyone fell. It was perfect. It was airtight. Some of his worst nightmares were real, and now he's making a movie about it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this film actually gets made and released? And which names do you think Hollywood is most desperate to keep off that screen? I'll see you in the next one.